Procrastination is not just about being lazy, it is a silent thief that steals your time, your potential, and eventually, your hope. Ethan lived with this heavy, invisible weight for years. On the outside, he looked like anyone else, but inside, he was fighting a losing battle every single day. He had big, beautiful goals. He wanted to finish writing his first book, grow a side business that he was passionate about, and finally feel healthy and energetic again. But most days ended exactly the same way. He would wake up with a long to-do list and a spark of intent, but as soon as he sat at his desk, a cold wall of anxiety would rise. He told himself he would start in just 5 minutes, and then he would pick up his phone. One notification led to another. He scrolled through social media until the entire afternoon felt gone, swallowed by a digital void. To ease the guilt of not doing the big work, he would do fake work. He tidied a kitchen drawer instead of writing his chapter. He answered dozens of unimportant messages that did not need answers. The guilt built up like sediment at the bottom of a lake. He felt stuck, small, and frozen every single morning. He was a spectator in his own life, watching his dreams drift further out of reach. The turning point came when Ethan hit a wall of total burnout. He realized that the gap between who he was and who he wanted to be was becoming a canyon. Then, he stumbled upon a simple, almost childish idea called the 10-minute rule. At first, he was skeptical. How could 10 minutes fix years of failure? But the rule was disarmingly simple: commit to a task for just 10 minutes, and if you want to stop after that, you have full permission to do so. This rule rests on a fundamental truth of human psychology: the starting cost is the highest price we pay. Our brains are wired to protect us from perceived pain, and a huge project looks like pain. A 10-minute block, however, looks like a tiny, harmless step. It lowers the barrier to entry until the barrier almost disappears. It is a contract with yourself that says, I don't have to finish, I just have to begin. Ethan decided to test the rule on a quiet Tuesday evening, when his to-do list felt like an immovable mountain. He walked into the kitchen and grabbed an old, mechanical kitchen clock. He didn't aim for perfection. He didn't try to plan the whole week. He just picked one task, a report he had avoided for a month, and promised himself only 10 minutes. He sat down. His hands actually trembled a little as he opened the blank document. The white screen felt aggressive, like it was judging his silence. But then, the tick-tick-tick of the timer reminded him, it's just 10 minutes. He wrote one clumsy, imperfect sentence. Then another. He wasn't focused on quality, he was focused on movement. Suddenly, the fear that had kept him paralyzed for weeks began to loosen its grip. The task shrank from a monster to a series of words. When the timer finally rang, he was shocked. He didn't want to stop. Those 10 minutes had broken the seal of fear. Momentum, the most powerful force in productivity, had finally taken over. Once he saw it worked, Ethan began to refine the technique into a daily system. He realized his environment was designed for distraction, so he used the 10-minute rule to re-engineer his space. He created a deep work ritual. When he needed to focus, he would take his phone, his biggest source of escape, and physically place it in a desk drawer or even in another room. He set his timer and closed every single distracting tab on his computer. He used the rule on his morning routine too. Instead of dreading a messy inbox, he would tell himself, 10 minutes of emails, then I'm done. He would delete the junk and reply to the easiest messages first. These small wins acted like fuel. He found that he could solve an entire pile of nagging chores, sorting mail, filing papers, clearing his desk, in short, focus bursts. What used to take a whole, stressful weekend was now being handled in 10-minute sprints throughout the week. He learned that small errands could be short sprints instead of endless escapes. Why did this work so well for Ethan? It wasn't just willpower. It was science. Coaches and psychologists call this behavioral activation. The traditional view of motivation is a myth. We think we need to feel motivated to act, but in reality, action creates motivation. When Ethan moved his body or his pen, his brain's reward system engaged. Even a tiny success, like writing a paragraph or cleaning a corner of a desk, releases a small dose of dopamine. This chemical signal tells the brain, "This feels good, let's do more." By promising only 10 minutes, Ethan was tricking his amygdala, the part of the brain that triggers the fight or flight response to stress, into staying calm. Because the commitment was so small, the brain didn't feel the need to run away to the safety of a smartphone screen. He stopped waiting for the perfect mood, because he realized the mood is the result of the work, not the requirement for it. It wasn't a perfect upward line. Ethan had bad days. Some days he would come home from work exhausted, and the thought of even 10 minutes felt like too much. He would fall back into the old cycle of scrolling and guilt. But there was a key difference now: he knew how to get back on track. He learned the art of self-forgiveness. Instead of beating himself up for a lost afternoon, which only creates more stress and more procrastination, he would simply say, "Okay, that happened. Let's do 10 minutes now." He paired the rule with small, humane rewards. After a successful 10-minute block, he allowed himself a walk outside, a hot cup of tea, or 5 minutes of his favorite podcast. These rewards didn't derail him, they reinforced the habit. He found that rhythm and consistency mattered infinitely more than a single burst of perfection. His goals no longer felt like distant stars, they felt like stones he was placing one by one to build a path. After a few weeks of this practice, the transformation was visible. Ethan's productivity didn't just increase, it transformed his character. The pile of unfinished tasks that had haunted his dreams began to shrink until it disappeared. A stalled business proposal he had been thinking about for a year was finished in 2 weeks of 10-minute sessions. The physical symptoms of stress, the tight chest, the morning headaches, began to fade. He woke up feeling capable. Colleagues at work noticed he was more reliable and responsive. He wasn't the guy who forgot things anymore, he was the guy who started things. He realized that confidence isn't something you're born with, it's something you build through a series of kept promises to yourself. Each 10-minute timer was a vote for the person he wanted to become. The story of Ethan is not unique. You can copy his blueprint today. If you are feeling overwhelmed, remember that you don't need a whole day of focus. You don't need a perfect plan. You just need 10 minutes. Here is the exact checklist Ethan used: pick one clear task. Not work on my business, but write the first 3 sentences of an email. Set a physical timer. Use your phone, a kitchen clock, or a web timer. The visual countdown is key. Remove one major distraction. Put your phone away. Close the tab. Just one. Suspend all judgment. Do not worry if the work is good. Just worry if the clock is ticking. Finally, stop or continue. When the timer rings, you have won. You can walk away with no guilt, or you can use the momentum to keep going. Ethan learned a simple, powerful life lesson: small beginnings carry big ends. You are not a lazy person, you are a person with a brain that is trying to protect you from stress. By starting small, you are showing your brain that you are safe and that you are in control. Don't wait for a burst of willpower. Willpower is a limited resource, but a 10-minute habit is sustainable forever. Start before you feel ready. Action brings the spark, and the spark becomes your fuel. What is the one thing you have been avoiding? Try the 10-minute rule right now, as soon as this ends. Tell us in the comments what task you picked, and how it felt to finally start. If this story helped you, like and subscribe to join our community of people taking small steps toward big changes. Remember, you are not lazy. You are learning. And small steps will change your life.
Thank you for watching. Goodbye.